All right, we're on to our fourth lecture on these corner captures, and this time we're going to look at different opposing hands and, different versions of capturing the starter, and just keep seeing examples of what we've been looking at and see that it really does. Each of these ideas holds up and is going to be consistent, and of course, each position, each number combos are going to be different, but that the core ideas, the heuristics and understandings we should have, hold up pretty well. So here we have a hand where blues is made of 6-6-3-2s, while reds is the hand we've gotten used to. We're going to begin the normal way, and blue will capture. And I guess I skipped a picture, but blue captures from 2, and we recapture from 4 per usual. And I think here blue's already in a pretty tough spot. We know that they shouldn't occupy 5 immediately. They have lots of cards for 5. They have 2 different cards that same in 5, but we know it's pretty bad for them to capture immediately. So, well, let's look at that first. Say blue sames in 5. I have some graphical screw-ups here you can see at the bottom, but shh. So if blue occupies 5, it's no surprise red wins. Red has been winning, every time blue occupied 5. But let's find the win. You can, of course, pause and try to find it on your own. But where do we look first? Well, we used our horizontal card, we kept our vertical card. We want our vertical card to be great at the bottom, therefore we should be tempted to look at 3 first. And it's no surprise that 3 is in fact a win. 3, 2, 7, 6, and 3 is a winning move. And this may look like, okay, it requires a bit of calculation. They can combo us. For instance, they can play 6, 3, 2, 6, and 6. That flips both 3 and 2 and puts blue up 7, 3. However, we can play 6, 7, 2, 3, and 7, and we flip the card in 4 and make it 6, 4 them, but our 2, 6, 3, 6 dominates the bottom row as we planned from the start. If they go in 8, we have a same necessarily, and if they go in 9, we will have a plus, and either way, we will flip enough to win. Blue could also try defending against the move in 3 by going in 7. For instance, 3, 6, 6, 2, and 7, male oracle. When 6, 7, 2, 3, and 6 wins, again, the 2, 6, 3, 6 just dominates the bottom row, and anything that sets it up with the final squares being in the bottom row is just very likely to be a winning variation. So 3, 2, 7, 6, and 3 wins. There are probably other wins here, but I think it's important to know what's the first square we're going to look for a win and just calculate that out. Even though they can combo it, it's quite likely to be a winning move. And we should look at 3 before we look at 7. And here, 3 was good enough to win. We don't need to find any better wins. Once you find a win, you can just play it. So we know 5's a bad move, and a better defense is going to be in 7. So here they played safely in 7. People like safety. And our first question is, do we have a play in 5 they can't combo? Now, if you're remembering the last lecture, you might think, blue probably shouldn't have played in 7. They should be playing 3. I agree. We have used vertical power, but we have not used horizontal power, so they should try to direct the game up and down, and therefore blue should be looking at 3 before they look at 7. But I like to go through examples, so first we're going to look at 7. So, and do we have a play in 5 that they can't combo? We can play 3, 2, 7, 6 there. They cannot combo that. It applies a lot of pressure. It's very hard to tie there for blue, but 6, 3, 2, 6, and 8 just barely sneaks the tie. And then we can try, okay, that one didn't work. Let's try a different card there. We can also, any of our cards go in 5 and capture the card in 4. Now, 6, 7, 2, 3 doesn't make much sense because they have the combo in 8. That one they do have the combo on. But 2, 6, 3, 6, they do not have the combo on, and it does win. For instance, in the same idea, if we go 2, 6, 3, 6, and 5, they go 6, 3, 2, 6, and 8, and then they're going to lose badly at the end to 6, 7, 2, 3 in 3, because that upward 3 and leftward 6 are going to be able to plus anything they put in 8 when we go our last move in 9 on Tiamat. So this is a position where their move in 7 did not fight for control of 5. We have 2 options in 5. One of them is very hard to save for blue, but they can just manage it, and the other is in fact just a win for red. So we move on to 3, right? And we expect 3 to be the square to go. This should be the hardest stuff for us to beat. And because we have more left power than we do up power, because we recaptured in 4 with a card with up power. Therefore, they want to direct the game as upwards as possible, and we do expect 3 to be the best move. 3-6-6-2 looks kind of safe, but really isn't, because after we play 2-6-3-6 and 5, we combo. This is just very bad for blue. We have a good move in 5. They can sort of combo back, but it doesn't actually flip back 2 for them, and red wins pretty easily. So this move did not fight for 5, because 2-6-3-6, how could they really fight it? And this shows that blue is a pretty tough situation, but here they didn't fight for it at all, and they let us combo a bunch of things. A better move actually is 6-3-2-6. And the idea is it sets up combos in 6 if we go in 5, but also it's not flipped when we go in 5. You know, the comboing 2 does not flip 3 as well, and so blue will have a little more freedom where to go with fewer of their cards flipped. And this move actually is kind of hard to beat. It gives up all leftward power, but it does fight against moves in 5 a little more than the last move. And even though it's not safe, which the last move sort of was, it's a better move and it's kind of hard to beat. So here's the challenge for the viewer. Can you find red's win here? I'm not going to give it in the video, but red is winning. It's not obvious. It is hard to beat these moves in 3, even with weird low outfacing numbers. A silly move like this that's not safe, doesn't seem to do much, but does kind of fight for 5, can still be pretty hard to beat. So this was a poor starter capture from blue. Blue's capture set up red's recapture to also give red the combo in 5. We can look back at this position and immediately see, yep, when they captured in 2, they knew we were going to recapture in 4, and that gave red a combo in 5. Now we know blue doesn't want to occupy 5 immediately, so they have to try to control it, but it's going to be harder to control it when the first moves already gave us a combo there, right? Red doesn't have to work at all to have a good move in 5. Blue already set it up for them. And even if blue has good moves there too, because on turn 4 blue never wants to go in 5, red's going to have first access. And so if both players have combo potential in 5, after the moves in 2 and 4, that's going to favor the first turn player, because they're going to have first chance to occupy it. So now blue has the combo there, but they can't go there, and they now have to try to control it, even though, you know, red has good moves there. There were saves possible. We didn't go into them, but they were hard to find, and the point was blue was under a lot of pressure fast after their first move, and, you know, just a very, very easy game to lose. So one guideline is don't capture their starter if their natural recapture gives them combos in 5 rather than giving you combos in 5. And if it gives both of you combos in 5, that's very likely to favor the first turn player. So the second turn player should really be looking for situations to capture starters where only they have good moves in 5 after. And of course, that doesn't mean they play that move in 5 immediately, right? They don't want to go in 5 themselves on turn 4. They just want to set it up to have that option while trying to fight against red having the same options. And again, in these L structures, respect all plays that control 5. Any play that controls 5 is going to be a pretty tough move to beat. Safe moves, often very easy to beat, but moves that control 5 can be pretty hard to beat. So we're going to go on to a new game. Now blue's hand is going to be quite different. We switched from 7-6s to 6-6s. Now we're switching to 7-5-5s, which is a whole different can of worms. And again, blue's going to take our starter. And this is an odd way to take the starter. I don't think many people would play this way. But it's got some merits. So one thing about it that makes it look especially bad is that when red captures their starter, it's going to flip this card as well, right? And all 3 cards will be reds. But that doesn't matter so much because we know blue's going to set up an L somewhere, they'll flip something back. It doesn't really matter who controls the non-secured cards. In the L formation, what really matters is who controls 1, which will be red. If red happens to flip some other cards as well, that's not really too big a deal. Before we move on from this diagram, I want to mention that one thing in blue's favor here is that if red did decide to go in 7, blue has a good move for 2. So if red played 6, 7, 2, 3, and 7, for instance, blue could go in 2, and they would set up the combo in 5, and they would not give red the combo in 5. With a move like 5, 4, 5, 4, and 2, They give themselves a same in 5, and red does not have combos in 5. And that's going to be a secured L. They have the card, and they're the one with a combo in 5. So that's going to be a very favorable situation to blue. And red should definitely have no consideration of going in 7 here. Of course, they should go in 2. So red recaptures per usual, and the question is, where should blue go? Well, this time, to recapture their starter, red used the 2-6-3-6 instead of the 6-2-6-3. So normally, in the previous examples we've done, red has always been missing up and down power and had left-right power. Now red is going to be missing left-right power and has up-down power, so blue should be thinking, I want to go in 7, not 3. So blue plays in 7, and we can immediately see this play makes a lot of sense. The 5-7, 5-2's 7 to the right gives red no combos in 5, so red critically does not have a combo in 5. They have no way to take, so blue already doesn't have to worry about figuring out how should I combo whatever blue plays in 5, whatever red plays in 5, because red has no good plays in 5. And they have to check, do we have any good response if red goes in 8? And yes, we do. Reds only capture in 8. They only have 1 because they have used a lot of their left-right power, and that's why we went in 7. Is 3-2-7-6 and 8, which can be comboed back 2 different ways from 5, so that's not a threat. And again, we can just immediately see, hey, this is a pretty good unsecured L for blue, right? 5 is covered, 8 is covered, red has to go 3, and blue's in a pretty good shape. So, we know red should go 3. Which card should they put in 3? So 3-2-7-6 and 3 can be captured. Blue has a bunch of plus walls on that. 6-2-6-3 is safe. Neither move really fights for 5, so we don't really have a way to decide on that virtue. So if we can't decide by which fight's better for 5, we should pick the move that's safe. 6-2-6-3 and 3 is safe. And red, in fact, does manage a tie here. Blue does not have a winning move in 5. The blue has a number of ways to tie and a number of options. So I think this is really a model game from the second turn player's perspective. And why I think so is, 1, it captured red's starter with a really high number facing 5, so that when red recaptured, and they only have the 1 recapture, that move is forced, red wouldn't have a play in 5, but blue does have plays in 5. And then the second thing blue did really nicely is they went in 7 rather than 3, because red used their horizontal card, so they were weak side to side, so 7 was the better option to go in. And before they played in 7, they made sure they could combo any captures in 8. They could, so they essentially had 2 safe cards in 4 and 7, and that already gave blue a pretty big advantage. And if they had played in 3 instead of 7, red would have had multiple ways to capture because they had a bunch more up and down power, but because we played in 7, because red had already used their horizontal card, red had fewer ways to take, so it was easier to make sure we could combo every way red could take, and red is immediately under pressure. Red does have a tie in 3, but first checks 5, didn't work, checks 8, didn't work, and then looks for 3. And is kind of lucky, actually, to have a tie there. But they do have other ties. Blue used all their rightward power. If we look at the position, you can see blue only has 2 cards with significant power to the right, and they use them on the first 2 turns. So it's actually not surprising that on turn 5, red had another tie with 6, 7, 2, 3, and 9, just trying to direct the game as rightward as possible, and putting cards in that part of the board where blue's going to have trouble taking it. But I do think this is really the kind of game that when you're looking to capture a starter, you want to aspire to, where you take the starter with a high enough value facing 5 that it really limits the options red's going to have in 5, and here red had no options in 5 at all, and then that we play against the directions where they are strong or take advantage of the directions they are weak, and go in 7 here rather than going in 3 to follow it up with that 7-5, 5-2, and 7 move, because red was lacking in left to right value, and thus this was the move that took advantage of it. And I think looking at this game, we shouldn't think, well, blue was lucky to have a good situation, they captured a corner starter, that's a kind of silly move. Instead, we should think, no, blue played this game really smartly and got an advantage out of the kind of opening and middle phase, and red has to play smart at the end to manage a tie, and blue is a pretty easy time getting at least a tie here. So, yeah, I think if there's one game I've shown so far that is a model game, an example of what you want to do when going for these capturing a corner starter opening decisions, this is the kind of game you want to be following and, playing like. All right. Cheers.